Hello. The big news this week is a weird one, a really weird one. I don't know that I've actually seen this happen. I've seen it happen, but I don't know that I've seen it happen in the Portland startup community. So I'll get into that in a second. But before we get into the big news, I wanted to share a new community resource that I wanted to make sure that folks were aware of. It's the Portland Startup Events Calendar. Now I see you're like, wait a second, I thought we already had a Portland Tech Calendar. We do have a Portland Tech Calendar called Calligator that for a long time, pretty much as long as I've been doing Silicon Florist, so nearly 18 years, the Calligator open source project has been the aggregated tech calendar for Portland and continues to be so. Like every week, people publish new events to Calligator. They use it to highlight what they're working on, their meetups or their user groups or their get-togethers or their talks or their events, whatever. Lots of stuff still winds up on Calligator. And if you're in tech, Calligator remains a very important resource. But see, here's the thing. Back when Calligator started, the tech community and the startup community were pretty significantly overlapped. So when we were talking about startups back then, more often than not, we were talking about technology companies. So it made sense for the tech calendar to also support the startup calendar and the startup events, so long as they were tech related. As time has gone on, that overlap has kind of become smaller, where there's a lot of like startup-oriented events that have little or nothing to do with technology. So they don't really belong on Calligator because they're not tech events. And folks were trying to figure out like where do I find my startup events that aren't tech events? Thankfully, Dominic Kuklawood said, I can fix that problem, and started the Portland Startup Events Calendar. It's hosted on Luma, which, as you know, is the new hotness for the kids these days as they're planning the events and getting the RSVPs and all that kind of thing. The nice thing about Luma is it has this capability of bringing in not only Luma events in a calendar list, but also other events that are hosted elsewhere. So Dominic spun this up. He kind of soft launched it during Portland Startup Week, got good traction there. People were starting to use it. So now it's taken a full-on launch, and we're looking to use it to track startup events. So one of two things for you to do, potentially two of two things for you to do. One, if you are an event organizer, please make sure to add any Portland startup events, of course I'll link it up, to the Portland Startup Events calendar so that people can find them, whether or not they have anything to do with tech. If they have something to do with tech, they can still go on the startup calendar. You can put them both places. You can put them on the Portland Startup calendar. You can put them on Calligator, the aggregated Portland Tech calendar. So you get multiple ways to promote it, but if it's startup oriented, please make sure it gets on the Portland Startup Events calendar. The other thing is if you're an attendee, get regularly in the habit of checking both Calligator and the Portland Startup Events calendar, because those are now two resources. Yes, you have to check two things, but you don't have to run around checking Eventbrite and Meetup and Luma and Cvent and personal sites and all those kinds of things. Like, you can just go to those two resources and figure out what's going on in the startup community. And week to week, when I create my newsletter, I will go to those two resources and try and aggregate those in the Silicon Florist newsletter. So it will be aggregation upon aggregation to ensure that you're seeing all the events that you could potentially be attending in the Portland startup community. I'm really thankful Dominic has taken this on. I'm eager to see how it works, and I would love to see people using it. Oh, and the one other thing, one of the things we always appreciated about Calligator was it was anyone could add an event. It didn't just have to be the event organizer. You could say, hey, I found this event somewhere. I don't see it on Calligator. I'm going to go ahead and post it there so that other people are aware it's there. Same thing works with the Portland Startup Events calendar. The nice thing about the Portland Startup Events calendar is if you're not the event organizer, you submit it. It's curated. There's someone sitting there making sure that the right events are getting posted to the calendar, which Doesn't always happen as quickly on Calligator. Calligator, it's more an after the fact. Like somebody will post something, everybody will go, wait a second, I think that's spam. That Texpo thing is definitely spam. And so then we'll have to go in and delete it from Slack and all those kind of things. With the Portland Startup Events calendar, each of those things is being checked before it's being published. So hopefully it reduces the spam, increases the fidelity of the calendar. But in any case, whether you're an event organizer or an event attendee, please think about starting to use the Portland Startup Events calendar to help aggregate all the startup events for everyone here in town.
We're all in this together.
Okay, now on to the big news, the weird, wild stuff news. If you remember back in January, or you may not, I talked about Act On Software, local company, used to be out in Beaverton, moved to downtown Portland, was among those companies that were, like Puppet and Simple and Jama and Janrain and all those folks were among the companies that were known as Portland startup companies. At the beginning of the year, it was announced that Act On had entered an agreement to be acquired by a company in the Seattle area. I think it's Bainbridge Island, but at least Seattle area, called Bonsai. And it was a deal that was above $50 million, and part of it was stock and part of it was cash. But for whatever the case, Act On was going to be acquired. And so it was kind of one of those telegraphing it. The deal wasn't finished. People hadn't been paid. And we were all just kind of waiting for the deal to close. Well, comes right down to the fact that the deal is not going to close. The deal is off. Apparently, Bonsai did not have the capital it thought it would have because a funding source fell through, and Act On was like, hey, you good? We good? And Bonsai's like, nah, we're not good. We're not going to be able to do this. So unfortunately, Kate Johnson had to reach out to Bonsai and say, look, this isn't going to work. I want to give you the exact kind of details of it. They had to submit the letter to the SEC. So the letter's publicly available to see what Kate communicated to Joseph Davey at Bonsai. But I would like to go ahead and just read a couple sections of it to you so that you understand what's happening with Act On. Again, this is from the perspective of Kate, who's composing the letter to Joe at Bonsai about the pending acquisition. There's some intro about the company and the merger and yeah. Here's the crux of it. In a phone call on June 5th, you, Joe, stated that your anticipated funding sources would not be able to provide the funding necessary to permit you to consummate and close the merger and other transactions contemplated by the agreement. You further stated that you have no reliable alternatives to raise the necessary funds. Obviously, this is unwelcome news for us, Act On, and our stakeholders, as we have fully complied with all terms, conditions, and covenants set forth in the agreement and the ancillary documents, in addition to other requirements and requests that you have stated were necessary to consummate the merger and the other transactions. The significant delays and uncertainty that resulted from your ongoing inability to raise the funds and close the merger has had a negative impact on our business and our prospects. For these and other reasons, Act On hereby notifies you by this letter. Act On is exercising its right pursuant to Section 9.01e of the agreement to terminate the agreement and the ancillary documents effective immediately. So a very unfortunate situation for Act On, having to kill that deal, but making the right move, just a hard move for them to have to make, and also to be in a situation where something seemingly positive was going to be happening, and then it turns out it just becomes negative. So congratulations to Malia Spencer for breaking this story. Other people have covered it. GeekWire, Oregonian have covered it as well. As far as anyone knows, Act On will now continue as an independent business and continue operating as it had before the merger stuff started. So, of course, I'll continue to keep an eye on it and the news coming out of the Act On situation. But I'm just sorry to report that the $50 million plus merger acquisition of Act On and Bonsai is off. If you're watching this on the YouTube, you may be familiar with like React YouTubers. Like they'll watch content or they'll like take snippets of content and respond to them, or sometimes they'll just place their floating head on top of that content and kind of play the content while they're talking over it. Sometimes they do this in kind of a live stream function where in real time you're watching them and provide commentary about the stuff that you're both watching simultaneously. Well, there's a new service here in Portland, still in beta, that's trying to deal with that last aspect I was describing. It's called React.tv, obviously designed for reaction types. But here was the issue. More often than not, the person watching the stream and commenting on the stream was not necessarily giving all the views from everybody else watching the React person's stream. I don't know if that's making any sense, but basically they were using someone else's content. That person's content was not necessarily getting views. It was only getting one view, the view of the person reacting to it. What React.tv seeks to do is kind of create a watch party environment where everybody's views contribute to the original content's views, so it's not just a one view kind of thing. Am I making sense here? It basically trying to make it more ethical to do reaction videos or reaction live streams by allowing the original content to get the views it deserves. I'm making it a lot more complicated than it is. All it is watch party. So people who are used to doing reaction videos, reaction live streams, now have a platform that they can use to do that kind of work and that kind of entertainment. And now the original content benefits from the views as well. So I think it's a really interesting concept. And I have also looked through it. I mucked with it a little bit. There's also the ability to kind of create almost television programming where like I could say, every Thursday, all the episodes of Silicon Florist's weekly recap with Portland startup news are going to play. Every single one of them play all day, and you can tune in at any point in time and watch the live stream of that. And who knows, maybe I'm there and I could hang out for part of the watch party or whatever. But anyway, it enables that kind of activity as well. So it feels like there are potentially a couple different directions this could go, or it could go both. But I'm keeping an eye on it because I think it's super interesting. And I think it's a really interesting way to think about the creator economy, specifically people creating reaction content or reaction live streams, and how that whole industry might have the opportunity to be more equitable and ethical in the way that views are counted. So keep an eye on react.tv. If you are a live streamer and want to test it out, you can sign up for an account, and I will keep an eye on what they build out and what the adoption is, and if there's any interesting shows on there that maybe you should watch. Okay, just a quick one. My voice keeps cracking. Real quick one. Y Combinator applications are open. So if you've always thought about maybe getting the support or investment from Y Combinator, now's your chance. Applications are open. Make sure and get those in. You still got a little time. I think there's a few weeks to a month left before they're actually due. But don't dilly-dally. Don't procrastinate. Get to work on your Y Combinator application. I would love for you to be a future YC alum who's here in Portland, kind of like Darius Monsef with several companies, or Birch Biosciences, which is also a YC alum. So there are more and more YC alums here. It's well worth it for you to take the opportunity to make it into Y Combinator, but you have to get your application in before the application window closes. Lots of exciting community events coming up. I didn't want to forget any of them, and I wanted to remind you about them, so I made a list I wanted to check off a few of them, a few of the big ones that seem to be really popular, that could be great places for you to connect with community or show off your stuff or do whatever. So let me read through these so you have your list of potential event opportunities for next week and the future in the Portland startup community. Okay. First off, Saturday. Hopefully you're watching this on Friday. This Saturday, it's the Cody MD AI Hackin' Back, which is a day-long hackathon with prizes and potentially investors and mentors and all kinds of folks there. So if you're in AI, you're interested in working on health, and you would like the support of Cody MD, which was founded by Dave Sanders, Dr. Sanders, who was the founder of Zoom Care. He's now working on Cody MD. So great environment if you're working on healthcare stuff and you have AI involved in some way. Speaking of AI, Monday is the Oregon AI Boot Camp. That's a full day, AI activities, all programmed and that kind of stuff. That's on Monday. Tuesday is Oregon's Columbia River Pitch. You know, they do those series of pitch events. They have the West Side Pitch. They did the Clackamas County Pitch, and the one for Multnomah County and Clark County in Vancouver, Washington, is called the Columbia River Pitch. So that's taking place next week. Typical Thai pitch competition. People win cash prizes, investment, sometimes services as well. So lots of interesting companies pitching there. I have a list of them on the site if you're interested on who made the final cut. But if you're interested in seeing startups pitch and see what kind of caliber of companies are being built in Multnomah County and Clark County, I highly encourage you to attend Columbia River Pitch on Tuesday. Tuesday evening is the next show up for small business gathering. It's going to happen in St. John's. Quite simple. Portland Office of Small Business picks a location within the city. They say, we're going to be here. You should show up, come hang out with us, and spend money at these small businesses. So that's it. Just Tuesday, you just got to show up, maybe buy a beverage, maybe buy some food, maybe stroll around in St. John's and visit a few of the small businesses there, and maybe buy some stuff. Super simple, really easy. It's just like I hate to say it, it's a flash mob. It's like the good old flash mob, or like a tweet up. It's like a tweet up. I just said tweet up. It's like that kind of thing. If you're interested in supporting small businesses in Portland, specifically in St. John's, I highly encourage you to show up for small business with the Portland Office of Small Business on Tuesday evening. On Friday, apparently there's a gap in the week. On Friday, it's another startup cafe at the Hub, at the Metro Region Innovation Hub, the hub for innovation within the Portland metropolitan region. They, every other week, do their startup cafe. Fridays, they have donuts and coffee and talks and mentorship and hanging out and co-working and all the things and all the stuff. So that's happening on Friday. So if you're looking to meet some peers or maybe hear some good content, or maybe you're just hungry for a donut or you need a little more caffeine, whatever the case, that's all happening at the Metro Region Innovation Hub there on the very south end of the Portland State University campus. Also Friday is the big finals for the 2025 Invent Oregon competition. If you're not familiar with Invent Oregon, it's a statewide competition that takes place at the university collegiate level. So all of these entrepreneurs are currently college students or university students, and they have gone through a whole bunch of competition to get here. This is the finals. This is where the big winner is chosen. All of that is happening in North Portland as well. Much like the Show Up for Small Business, the Invent Oregon finals are held at the University of Portland this year. But there are colleges from all over the state who show up. So again, if you're interested in who the finalists are, I will link that up so you know who all the companies are, you know who all the colleges are, who are educating those founders and who have supported them throughout the Invent Oregon experience. But if you're interested in seeing the latest innovation from college students in the state, there is absolutely no better place than Invent Oregon, and the finals are by far the best of the best from the Invent Oregon competition. And then finally, where did June go? Like the last Sunday of June, which is June 29th, you know how I was talking about that React TV thing? Well, I'm going to do kind of something like that, but it doesn't really matter if it gets all the watch time and watch hours because I'm just watching my own stuff. But basically here's the premise. So I was like, a lot of stuff has happened in 2025. I've probably forgotten about half the stuff I've talked to you about. And if I've forgotten half of it, you've probably forgotten half of it or more than half of it. So I was like, how do I refresh my brain? How do I refresh myself on all of these topics? And maybe how do I help you kind of think back to all the things that have already happened this year? So the last Sunday of June, June 29th, I'm just going to do a watch party. I'm going to watch all of the episodes I've recorded for 2025 so far. By then, it'll probably be 25, 26, because that's like half a year. But here's the thing, for you, to save you the torture of having to sit through me droning on, we'll watch it at 2x. So 2x, every episode I've recorded of Portland startup news, Oregon startup news for 2025, just the Friday recaps. We're not going to watch everything I've recorded, just the Friday recaps for 2025. We'll all get caught up on the news. I'll be there if you have questions or you want to say things or like, if you want to roast me, that's also appropriate. I'll probably roast myself here and there. So hoping you can join me. I'll go ahead and link that up as well. And if it's of interest to you, I would love to have you tune in and hang out while I refresh my memory of what happened so far in 2025 and get ready for that second half of 2025 in the Portland startup community. And then finally, this is, again, really snuck up on me, the last big gathering we're going to organize for the community. This is like all of the startup organizations kind of help one another with this one. July 8th is the Portland Startup Community Cookout. It'll be held at the Red. There'll be food, there'll be beverages. There'll hopefully be a lot of people there. I mean, it could be a really good opportunity to run into a lot of folks from the community who maybe you haven't had the chance to connect with. Could be a great place to run into people from startup support organizations in the community. You know, when we did this in January, like 400 people showed up. When we did this in April, I think it was March or April, like 600 people RSVP'd. So I'm hoping it's a pretty decent sized crowd. I would love to get you introduced to plenty of people in the community. So if you can make time for July 8th, which is a Tuesday, and then I won't bug you anymore for the rest of the year, except for the Hispanic Heritage fireside chats. We'll still do those, but I won't bug you for the rest of the year. This will be the last kind of big blowout. We've kind of learned what's working and what's not, but let's make this a big community celebration. Free food, free drink, all that kind of thing. Come hang out with your peers, come hang out with startup support organizations. Let's get the community together and get folks connected.
We're all in this together.
One I wanted to touch on from last week, you may remember I mentioned that Conveyor was a company that Oregon Venture Fund had just invested in, and I was doing research on LinkedIn and Crunchbase and stuff. I couldn't figure out like what the Pacific Northwest connection was. Well, Oregon Venture Fund was kind enough to reach out. I had asked, like, does anybody know? And they reached out and they're like, yeah, in fact, the CEO lives in Camas, Washington. So definitely a Pacific Northwest company, definitely within the Portland kind of region. So again, the Conveyor folks, while a distributed company with remote workers, the CEO of Conveyor right here in Camas, Washington. Just wanted to make sure folks knew that. Okay, now we're getting to the end where I feel like it's just you and me. Like they're just no one else is really watching. Everybody else left. So I kind of saved this time. I've started saving this time for secrets. Secrets between you and me, because you actually suffered through the whole episode and then were kind enough to hang out until now. So I'll give you a little background on this secret. Long, long ago, a guy named Raven Zachary very active in the Portland startup community. Specifically those days, started kind of in open source and then became very active in the iPhone world. He was the one who put on iPhone Dev Camp before people were even able to publish applications to the iPhone. He built an agency, co-founded an agency called Small Society that built all kinds of cool apps. He worked on the Obama app. Small Society worked on the Zipcar app and other really interesting apps. And then Small Society wound up getting acquired by Walmart. Anyway, that's background that went tangentially a direction I wasn't really thinking I was going to go. Back in the day, Raven developed this platform site called Portland on Fire. And Portland on Fire was designed to be slow social networking. So what would happen is you'd submit your profile, Raven would pick a profile each day of the week, and then he would publish one profile per day, 5 days a week, and you would get to meet somebody new in the Portland startup community each day. And that was super effective and worked really well when the Portland startup community was super small and when Raven wasn't super busy. So Raven got kind of overwhelmed, too busy, too much stuff going on, had to prioritize and focus. And he said, "Hey, Rick, would you take this over?" And I was like, "Sure, I'm happy to." And so I kind of kept it going until it trailed off a bit. And then, a few years passed and I was like, that was a really good service. We should try that again. So I kind of just incorporated it into Silicon Florist and was like, "Hello, Portland. I'm so-and-so. Nice to meet you," kind of thing. And would do one profile a day. Again, sort of manageable, but not really at the scale for a growing community to actively engage with multiple people per week. Like, it just either people didn't have time to fill stuff out, or they didn't have time to reach out to the people who were profiled, or we didn't have enough profiles or whatever. And so it wasn't quite working. So it kind of elegantly degraded into a non-existent thing. And yet I still always get requests from people about who else is here? I want to meet other people. Can you help me get intro to folks? Can you help connect me with people? And I love doing that work. I honestly do. It's one of my favorite things that I get to do is connecting dots. Is meeting people and going, "Oh, who would be great for you to meet is this person and this person." And then I keep thinking and I'm like, "Oh, how did I forget that they should totally meet that person too?" And making those email intros and all that stuff. I love that stuff. If I could get paid to do that full time, day in and day out, I would do that in a heartbeat. I would do that in a second. Collecting dots, connecting dots, I would do it. I just love it. I love it so much. I did a TEDx Portland talk on it long, long ago. But anyway, love doing that work, but I'm not scalable. So what I've decided is the one a day is not high enough volume to be meaningful, or it's too hard to figure out what's happening in aggregate. And I don't have the time to scale to help everyone meet everyone as effectively as I would like to. So I've created a new platform, and here's the little twist. It's not just Portland that needs to be connected. There are amazing entrepreneurs in Pendleton, Oregon, and in Bend, Oregon, and Eugene, and Corvallis, and Klamath Falls, and Medford, and Salem, and Cannon Beach. They're all over. We have amazing entrepreneurs and startups all over Oregon. So I've expanded the scope a bit. This addresses Oregon startup people and Oregon startup folks, and it's really designed to be kind of a lookbook connection point for founders, startup-oriented people who are working in startups or on startups or around startups. Doesn't matter if you're a founder or a service provider or an engineer. If you feel like you're part of the startup community and want to be more tightly connected to other people in the startup community, and you happen to reside in Oregon or Southwest Washington, that's fine too. This is for you. So I'm going to link it up. If you're still here and listening to this, I would love it if you would fill out a profile. I will show you a link to the form to fill it out, as well as a link to the profiles that are already in there, and you can kind of thumb through and see who's there and maybe meet some new people. Everybody has to put like a LinkedIn address or a GitHub or whatever so you can connect with them and meet them if they're of interest to you. You'll be able to filter it. You'll be like, I'm just looking for founders, or I'm just looking for mentors or investors or whatever. You can filter it, you can search through it, all those kind of things. But I want to make this a really meaningful repository for the Oregon startup community. So if you could take a few moments, fill that out. It will go into a queue. I'm reviewing each and every profile to make sure that it's like, oh, you're actually from Oregon or Southwest Washington. Oh, the photo you submitted is actually cropping your head off, so I need to correct your photo. I need to make sure these links work. Is this a 404? Does this go through? All that jazz. I'm dealing with that. So fill out your form. You will go into a queue. Once I've had a chance to review it, I will publish it. And then, from time to time, I will randomly select an amazing profile to be published to Silicon Florist. And if I publish it to the blog, it's likely to wind up here as well. So that's the carrot, is if you take the time to put yourself out there and provide a way to connect with people as interesting as you, that would be appreciated. And if you take the time to do that, then I will likely figure out a way to feature you and the work you do and your profile. So please consider that. It would really be appreciated, and it would really be helpful in scaling up the ability for more people in the community to get connected more quickly.
We're all in this together.
Hope you're hanging in there. If you got kids, I know it's crazy now that school's out. Please take care of yourself. Please try and find moments of sanity here and there. Hang in there. And until we get the chance to chat again, please keep up the good work.